Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast from Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo. Recorded live every Monday night at 7 from the new Jake's Burgers in Aledo. And now, with Aledo Bearcats head coach Robby Jones, the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
They need to throw downfield. He's got Burdine, and he's got it. Touchdown. 47 yards between Hoss Haney and Blake Burdine, and the Bearcats extend it to 20-0.
You to another edition of the Aledo Coaches Show podcast here on 92.1 Hank FM. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, joined by head coach Robby Jones, and just want to let everyone know that this segment becomes more and more popular by the week here. We mentioned last week that we've had more than 15 downloads for the first several episodes that were recorded throughout all of September. From last week's segment leading up to the South Hills games, more than 100 have downloaded it via either the podcast channel or the YouTube channel on 92.1 Hank FM. So again, spread the word on the podcast, and there are plans to expand this podcast just beyond the football season. We have talks about maybe taking this through the basketball season, the baseball season. Of course, lots of things will happen in the spring first week of February. We'll talk about the late signing period as well as realignment, because Aledo's looking to potentially move up to Class 6A. We'll talk about that. But now joined by head coach. Oh, before I go any further, we should tell you that on our second segment, we're going to be joined by linebacker Kai Howington and right tackle Josh McCarley, who apparently go way back, but we'll get into that later. And so anyway, Coach, you're coming off a 71-0 victory over South Hills in a game that everyone expected it to go that way. And I use the word humane because of what they're up against there at South Hills, but the way you all played it. And I want to ask you about just the way you navigated your team through that game, because you want to get things done, but you also want to treat it the right way. What was your reflection upon that game?
Yeah, we want to go out. We want to play well. While we had our starters out there, we wanted to make sure we were executing at a high level, which we were. Whoa. That's a first. But, yeah, so and then when we get our second team in there, same deal, want to be able to navigate through the game, with no mistakes. We kind of did that. And then, we had JV players up. We got the JV players in. But then, at the same time, you don't want to embarrass an opponent. So, there was talk at halftime about, when do you want to run the clock? I said, hey, let me get a few more series. Let me get all my guys in. And then we'll start talking about running the clock. And, and then we got another touchdown. I told the officials, I said, hey, run the clock, but, when there's dead balls like a change of possession, stuff like that, you just stop it. But then, at the start of the fourth quarter, I said, hey, let's get out here in 12 minutes. And the clock never stopped in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and you all pretty much did that. I think the one thing that was interesting about the first half of that game was the fact that you all didn't even run it very much. I think maybe a couple of attempts there by Caden Wingfield, but everything else was just working on your passing game with Haas and of course, a lot of second-time receivers out there. But, he hooked up with Blake Burdine. Your vertical game was working so well. A couple of deep shots to Blake Burdine, as I mentioned. Obviously, there was the deep shot there, or a couple of pass plays to Tyson Timms. But what did you just want to work on as far as that part of the passing game was concerned in a game like that?
Yeah, we knew that, as the game went on, we weren't going to be able to throw the football because of the fact that the game was probably going to get out of hand. And you don't want to do that, to someone is, throw the ball in the end zone late. So we wanted to do that early. And Hoss was taking his shots when he got them, and he was making the right reads. The reads were to take the long ball, and he was taking it, and he was hitting them.
His growth as a quarterback this year, I mean, obviously the numbers speak for themselves, but do you think he's at a point now where it seems like everything has started to slow down for him even more at this level? Yeah,
the game has come to him. He knows what he's doing with the ball when the ball's snapped. And then if something changes and something goes wrong, man, he still can make a play. So, he's playing at a very high level right now, and he needs to continue that because we're going to go on a two-game stretch right here where we need him to play big.
And I was going to say, this was one of those games against South Hills where you mentioned earlier this season where you guys weren't going to run Haas when you needed or when you needed to, or I should say when you wanted to. It was just a case where it wasn't necessary in this game, and that's where you kind of just make sure that you get him in the right spot so that he has success, but then you keep him away from the possibility of some bizarre injury or anything like that.
Right, yeah. We don't want him to take unnecessary hits in any of these games. He may have to run the ball a little bit more than normal this week because Centennial runs a defense that's real similar to what Denton Geyer runs. And, so we'll have some of the same type of plays on with Hoss in the run game.
Now, about as efficient as you can get with this team, including the punt return, but this offense scored 9 out of the first 9 times it touched the football from start to finish. The only time that it did not was when you all were taking victory formations at the end. I don't know if you could have asked for better execution even from your younger kids.
No, and that's one of our goals going into the game is, hey, we don't want to call for the punt team. And, even when we bring in, second team or even our JV kids, we still do not want to punt the football. We want to continue to, execute, get first downs, which turn into points, and that's what we were able to do.
We should point out, too, that, and we mentioned this last week, mentioned it on the broadcast on Thursday night, that when the Bearcats won this game over South Hills, that they clinched a playoff berth officially for the 28th consecutive year. And again, that's not the goal for this program, is to clinch a playoff berth. But now that this is official, is it something, though, that you guys can always look back and say, this is, a streak that we can always be proud of, because not a lot of programs get to do this?
Yeah, all those streaks are nice. The district win streak, and then also the playoff streak. And then there's another streak once we get to the playoffs of winning the first round. And I believe ever since we've been in the playoffs, it's 28, you said?
Yeah.
We've won the first round, in all the previous 27. So we want to make sure we keep the 28, streak of first playoff game wins going.
So let's talk a little bit about the fact that you pulled up a lot of JV players, as you mentioned. We saw some good-looking young kids playing for you. One that comes to mind is Lamel Swanson. He's been up and down between your JV, had a punt return for a touchdown in that game. What did these younger players show you, the kids, just in terms of just the opportunity to compete in a varsity game?
The opportunity to come up and play, and even though it was a Thursday night, under the varsity lights, it showed that some of them are going to be ready next year when it's their time.
Let's talk a little bit about Blake Burdine. I mentioned him a couple moments ago, where he caught his first touchdown pass a couple weeks ago in the back right corner of the end zone over at your place at Tim Buchanan Stadium. But then the 2 deep shots with him and Haas. What have you seen from Blake just as his growth? Because, there's no certainty that you might have Colton McCoy at 100% for the rest of the year. So Blake's emergence, what could that mean to this offense?
Yeah, that helps us give another vertical threat. Blake has great speed. He runs on the track team. He is on the relays that went to Austin. So, he has really good speed. But the route running has come along. He's a lot better route runner than he was at the beginning of the football season. And he's just an option that we can go to at any time.
Is that a case where he just is studying film or just understanding what the route concepts are?
Just basically getting more and more reps. He's been able to get out there with the second team most of the year, worked with the first team last week, but he gets a lot of reps, gets a lot of action during practice, and those things have paid off for him.
And now you're going to be getting a lot of these guys that did not play against South Hills back. Caden Finley's back. Colton McCoy, will probably see how much he can play for you really starting on Friday, and then moving course the rest of the year. And then Hawk Daniels is back. Ray Guillory is back. What did that week off mean for those guys?
It gave those guys a little bit of time to rest and recover. Some of them probably could have played last week if we needed them, but we felt like that they needed the time. Their injuries require time off, where they're not out running every day. So we gave them that time off. They were able to recuperate. They all look good today, so it helped out a whole lot.
Yeah, and on the defensive side, you kind of get your defensive end situation fixed up a little bit with Carson Dempsey coming back. I don't think Carson's played since after the Denton Geyer game, and so the fact that he got cleared and is able to go, what does that mean for this front?
That's big. He was one of our main returners up front, from last year. He was our number 1 sack guy before, he had his surgery. And, getting him back, it's going to be big for the front. We're going to get a lot better with him up there. It's just going to take a little bit of time for him because, he's been laid up for 4 weeks, not able to do anything but really ride a bike. So, it's going to take a while for him to be able to go full speed, as much as we need him to.
And is that going to be a case on Friday night against Centennial where you have an X number of plays that he's going to play in the game because you've got to work him into game shape because he's missed so much time?
Yeah, he's going to be limited on consecutive reps. He may get 3 or 4 plays in a row, and then he's got to come out, and he's going to stay out for a little while. And then, once he gets his breath back, then we may be able to use him again.
And then you got some difficult news on Cooper Cyphers, who had filled in for him on that other side, and so it's unclear about how long he's going to be out. But he obviously had the hand injury. That was the week leading up to the Colony, and so just kind of explain his situation.
Yeah, Cooper, we got some bad news, from the doctor today. He's going to be out for a little bit longer than what we were hoping. But there is a positive down the road that, when we get into the playoffs, that he could possibly come back and help us.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the Centennial Spartans. And you had a chance to go watch them on Friday night at the Collins Complex against Denton Ryan, a game that Ryan won 35-14. This game was tied at 14 until the Raiders were able to pull away. But you saw that in person. And what did you see from Centennial? And of course, they they always run the option, which is a challenge. But what did you see from that team in that game?
I mean, it looks just like all the Burleson Centennial teams we've played in the past. They're really good at executing, the triple option out of that flex bone, which gives us some problems at times. We've been working on it quite a bit. We worked on it during the spring. So it's something that we've been working on. And then, defensively, they run that 3-3-5, just like Denton Geyer did. So, it's a different defense that you don't see all the time. So, you got to spend a lot of time on working on how to get to, to the next level, to that guy. They got a guy in the middle of the field that it's hard to account for him on most, blocking schemes that you have. So we got to come up with ways to where we can get to him.
Is that a case where maybe a running back or a Tyson Timms kind of has to take him out of it so that can free up guys if you're going to run anything crossing?
Right, yeah, we got to make sure that we got somebody going across his face to take him out of, the view of, the main route that we're trying to run. And, and also in the run game, you got to kind of scheme things up to where you got somebody that's going to him.
All right, so back to their offense, of course, as you mentioned, the flex bone, and it's obviously a case of discipline where who has the quarterback, who has the dive, who has the pitch. And, again, you guys have seen this for as many times as you've played Centennial. Kyle Geller does a great job of putting that offense together week after week. And it always seems to me like in these games that Aledo has played against Centennial in the past, that maybe it takes a couple of possessions to kind of get used to it, and then it seems like you guys seem to figure it out. I mean, no guarantees, but that's always been the pattern here.
Right, and what that boils down to is it's hard for your scout team kids, our JV kids, to replicate the speed that Centennial runs it. So it takes us a little while to get caught up. And then they also may have a few little wrinkles that our coaches have to get the kids onto the sideline and talk to them about. Our coaches are really good at in-game adjustments, and sometimes that's what you see is, they may get us a couple of series with something, then our coaches make an adjustment, and we're able to stop them.
Is that mainly that adjustment? Of course, I don't want you to give away any secrets here, but in making stops against that, obviously turnovers are going to be a part because that's sometimes can be the issue that confounds an option team like that. But what typically is an adjustment that can be made that seems to neutralize it or at least limit its success?
It's just basically, they're showing us something different. So they got to get over and they got to talk to, a lot of times it's the linebackers. The linebackers got to make an adjustment to, a blocking scheme that they're seeing. And Coach McCone will get them over there and he'll talk to them and say, hey, look, when the running back, or your slot, when he goes inside, you need to do this, or when he goes outside, you need to do this. And he just makes those adjustments with them, and then we're able to stop him.
Iverson Moore is their quarterback here, and he's, he didn't have a great throw in that, but and of course he's replacing a guy who was a really great decision maker. It's probably the best quarterback that Kyle Geller has coached. But what did you see from him, just the way he was running that offense?
Yeah, I mean, he operates. We saw him some last year on video because he was their backup last year. He also starts in the secondary for them. He started for them last year at corner. The other night against Denton Ryan, he was out there at safety. So he was playing both ways. So, he's a heck of an athlete, and we got to make sure that we have somebody assigned to him and not let him get loose.
And Keyshawn Tucker is their number one running back, or at least he was against Ryan, 118 yards and a touchdown for him. What impresses you about him?
He's a hard runner. He's first contact, we got to get somebody else on him because, he doesn't, go down easy. He runs through that first contact a lot of times, and we got to get multiple people on him.
And, of course, the one thing about this offense is that if you get the lead on them, it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to try and bring it back. And so I don't know if that's something that obviously coaches would prefer that, because if they can, then they have the advantage in here. Of course, with them, if it's in a tie game or if it's a one-score game, they can be as methodical as they want. So patience has got to be a key here.
Yeah, that's big. Being able to get a couple of early stops, and then the offense, putting points on the board that kind of gets them, out of their game plan. One of the, some of the hardest games we've had in the last few years, during our district win streak against them and Midlothian, they're able to control the clock, and when they control the clock, they keep our offense off the field. And that's what I've been preaching to our offense all week is, hey, listen, if they're able to go move the ball on our defense, every possession is big. We can't take a possession off. We can't have a mess up on a possession and not score, because if they're scoring, they're going to take possessions away from us, and we might not be able to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, the time of possession has really heavily favored them. Of course, actually, it happened quite a bit last week against South Hills, where you guys were like 3-1 time of a possession against. Yeah. But having said that, your kids, though, have understood that. And do you think it's a case of the fact that so many guys have played against us over the years that they've seen it, so they kind of understand it?
Yeah, it's good the fact that we saw it twice last year. Our kids, they used to be in the district with us when these kids were in junior high, so they played against it in junior high. They played against it twice last year, so they've seen it, over and over. But so there's a little bit of familiarity about it, but at the same time, it's not something you see on a week-in, week-out basis, so it is a little bit different.
The one thing I was going to ask you, too, that's totally unrelated to this is just your knack of winning coin tosses. The tradition under Tim Buchanan is that Aledo's been horrible at winning the coin toss, and you guys are you've won your last 3. And so I don't know if that's luck of the draw, or maybe finally that trend is turning on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even realize that we'd won the last 3. I know that we've won the last 2 because Haas, came to me and said, "Hey, Coach, if we win the toss, can we take the ball?" Because he goes, "I want to go set the tone early." I said, "You bet, man. If you want the ball, I'm going to give you the ball." And so we have the last few games we've taken the ball. There have been times where I've deferred because I wanted to get the defense out there first. But, it's just, week to week on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, in a case like this, though, I would think against Centennial, if you were to win the toss, maybe you would be more amped to want to take the ball first, because you want to put it on Centennial to try, if you're fortunate enough to score, then you want to put it on them to make them try and catch you.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing is, you got to look at it a couple of different ways. You get the ball first, you get to go out there, possibly put points on the board first, make them play catch up. But then again, one of the reasons why I like deferring the second half is because, if we get in a situation where we score right before half, then we come out of the half, we're getting the ball. And that's big sometimes.
Yep, it can be it's kind of like, it's like 2 possessions within 20 minutes of each other with just a break on that. The Bearcats and the Centennial Spartans this coming Friday night. Pregame show on 92.1 Hank FM is at 6:30. The kickoff is at 7 o'clock. Make your plans to join us, and of course, turn us on if you're going to be at Tim Buchanan Stadium watching that game, as we'll be delivering you all of the highlights of the Bearcats and the Centennial Spartans. Coach, always appreciate the time. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
All right. Robby Jones, the head coach of the Aledo Bearcats. On the other side of this break, we're going to be joined by linebacker Kai Howington and right tackle Josh McCarley. Stick around. We'll be right back.
1st and 10 at the South Hills 36-yard line. Haney will roll the pocket to the right. Fires down the middle of the field. Has got Burdine wide open. Touchdown. 36 yards between Haas Haney and Blake Burdine. Second time they've connected tonight. And the Bearcats need only one play, and they extend their lead to 34-0.
Twice those TCU legacies connected with each other last Thursday night. Haas Haney and Blake Burdine, and the Bearcats 71-0 win. Welcome back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Before we get into the second segment, just a reminder that H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. Time now to take a look at the Aledo Alumni Report, and we'll start with Cody Bradford, the Rangers left-hander, who got a win in relief in Game 2 of the American League Division Series Sunday in Baltimore at Camden Yards. Very good outing for Cody Bradford. 3 2/3 innings of shutout baseball. Had 4 strikeouts in the ballgame as the Rangers are up 2-0 in that series as it heads back to Arlington for Game 3 on Tuesday evening in Arlington, see if the Rangers can close out that series and move on to the American League Championship Series. A couple of other alumni notes to let you know about will be Money Parks, the wide receiver at Utah. He is the leading pass catcher for the Utes. And then Ryan Williams, you might remember him. He was a linebacker / running back for the Bearcats a couple years ago. He's at Stephen F. Austin. He's getting some time on the defense for them. Has a few tackles this year. Okay, now we're joined by Josh McCarley, who's sitting to my left, the right tackle for the Bearcats, and linebacker Kai Howington. Folks, give him a big hand. All right, so guys, let's just talk about last week's game against South Hills. You were preparing for a team that you knew was outmanned. You guys it was just a matter of how are we going to go through this game and take care of business about this. And so, the way you all managed it from start to finish, I'll start with you, Kai, about what you all learned about yourselves in a game like this when you're projected to win by such a big amount. And then, of course, you did. But you guys, again, having to do it, and again, as I talked with Coach Jones early, kind of a humane way of doing it.
Right. We used it. We used it as a way to just get better. Honestly, just work on a craft a little bit and just go in there, and just get better.
Is it a case, though, for you where you have to say, what physical things do I want to work on? What do I need to take on? And again, there's an opponent out there, so you got to stop him. But what are some of the things that you kind of trying to focus on individually so that you can be a better player, obviously for this week against Centennial, 2 weeks from now against Ryan, that sort of thing?
Alignment, getting lined up. We've struggled with that a little bit, being low on our tackles and wrapping up and just running our feet.
And then for you, Josh, let's talk about a game like this, because obviously the entire offensive line was back.
Yep.
But what did you guys get out of a game like this? Because you guys didn't even run it that much in the first half.
Well, Jones said it. He was like, we're just going to pass the ball. And I was like, all right, well, And I get up to the ball, and I see Andre the Giant. I swear he was like 6'6", So I'm like looking up at him, like, oh, crap. He came at me, and I was like, well, this is nothing. So I guess it just works on, like, being, there and present, and then worrying about the next opponent. So,
is it a case too where this again? Kai talked about alignment here, but for you guys for the offensive line, this is a game where it could have been very easy to fall into some bad habits, just kind of get sloppy, not pay attention to that sort of thing. So, what was important for you to make sure that didn't happen?
Just working on my technique and where I need to put my hands and where I need to line up and protect my quarterback. So.
You didn't have a problem with that. And then for you, Kai, is that just the same thing about where it could be very easily to make mental mistakes or just kind of get sloppy, not pay attention? Was that a challenge in that game, or was it not a challenge because of how you guys prepared for that game?
It was a challenge. At times it got a little slow, or it was a challenge, but we just stayed locked in mentally and just played as long and as good as we could. And
then Kai, for you were dealing with a little bit of an injury issue earlier this year. Just talk about what you were going through there, and then coming back, and then just kind of where you're at right now physically.
Right now I'm feeling great. I've got that brace, so it really doesn't bother me anymore. Other than that, nothing bothers me anymore.
When you're not out there because of an injury, how frustrating is that?
It sucks. It really sucks. So, maybe it's nice to have a Monday off, and then once you get to Friday and you're watching everybody out there, it's not very fun. But it's good to see Wilburn getting reps out there and seeing him start a game.
Yeah, and of course you're going to need him too, because just depth will mean so much for this team if it hopes to make another deep playoff run.
Right.
Josh, for you, again, you're one of the four returning starters from this offensive line. I've talked with DJ about this. I've talked with everybody about this. The other offensive lineman, Alex Arana, I've talked about this as well. But I want to ask you a little bit about just building that chemistry. Even though you guys were together last year, what was important from your perspective about this spring and then into fall camp about just making sure that you guys could essentially pick up where you left off, but obviously take that to another level?
Well, you see, like, all of us being back, I got my right guard back, so both of us know what to do. And so basically, we have Peyton, but Peyton has his brothers, so we all rely on each other. So good communication, And as soon as Peyton started learning, after Geyer, Northwest, Northwest was a hard game to, come back from, So we just started building it up. Now to this point, we're just like, all right, 60 zone, let's get up there. Boom, 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 run plays, so repetition.
So we talk about with offensive lines that they have to work like a fist. So tell the listeners what that analogy really means.
Well, just get up there, call your calls, and just blow them up. 4 yards carry, or for a Ray, go 80 yards and above. So
now you've blocked for some really good running backs in your time there, but I just want to talk about what Ray's presence in this backfield means, and and obviously the challenge is making sure that you don't miss an assignment, even though he can find a crease. But what's the challenge of blocking for somebody like that?
He's just fast and quick, And I mean, we'll run like Parrish. We ran 78 flares, so I hooked my guy and I tried, and this guy's a 4-star, he's a pretty good guy. Fell on the ground. And this is his first carry of all of us in Aledo. I see him take off. I'm like, oh wow, we got to get special guys. So he can find a little crease, and that's all it needs. We don't need a huge gap for to see in. He just needs a little bit. He's gone.
Kai, I want to ask you a little bit about the way this defense has progressed over the last few weeks. I mean, you guys have pitched a couple of shutouts. I mean, the 2 touchdowns against the Colony were what they were. But I want to ask you just about where you've seen how this defense has grown pretty much since the Denton-Geyer game to where you all are now.
We've grown a lot. This is probably the most athletic defense I've ever played with. And a lot of them are young, especially the D-line. And I've just seen, at practice, they're just trying to get better each and every day. And we have been getting a lot better. So I see, a lot more gaps sound. Secondary's doing a lot better. And the athleticism's coming into play with also, a gap sound defense. And it's looking good.
All right, and the youth, you mentioned the youth, and then Chase, who's a sophomore, Chase Wilburn, who was subbing for you while you were out. When you have that kind of play, of course, he had the big pick a few weeks ago, but when you have that kind of athleticism, what does that say for what this defense is capable of doing for the rest of the season?
I think, our defense can put up a lot of points, get a lot of takeaways, and just keep making plays more than any other defense, really.
Okay, so I want to ask you guys a little bit something different about managing your bodies through the course of a football season, because it's long, and really it starts in August when you guys, even if you guys are not going to wear pads on that first week of fall workouts in August, but you look at it, it's basically first week of August all the way through at least Thanksgiving. Now, obviously, Aledo fans are accustomed to it going longer than that, but just managing your bodies, going through the wear and tear of a season. I guess the key for you, Josh, let's talk about just handling that. Injuries notwithstanding, but just the grind. What's been the key for you to kind of just make sure that you're as fresh as you possibly can be week in and week out?
Well, just keep lifting, stretching. I don't do much stretching, but I need to, My mom forces on me, but I just kind of don't. But it's, managing your body. Make sure you're healthy. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure, drinking your water, just managing yourself. Make sure you're all right.
All right, and I'm gonna ask you about that too, Kai, in a second. But I want to ask you about this big gallon of water here that is this something you carry with you all throughout the day, or is this, or what is the story with this?
Well, my freshman year, COVID year, I was too scared to left my mask or something like that, and I didn't drink any water, and it was a hot 100 degrees Texas day, and I fainted. So and I was I'm gonna make sure I drink my water. So from now on, just been doing it, Sometimes I'll drink 3 of these, so.
You carry this to class?
Yeah, every day.
All right.
So.
I just wanted to make sure about that. Okay,
Yeah.
then Kai, just getting back to managing your body throughout the course of the season. Your injury notwithstanding, but just what's been the key for you to just kind of get through a season as rigorous and as physical as that can be?
I believe that our lifts every day after school are a big part of it. Getting into the deeper parts of the season, we're as strong, as we were, and been doing a lot of PT. Thankfully, we got the H5 sports barn, so get to do a little bit of PT there, getting the ice bath, and just, lifting, staying strong, and staying on top of things.
Okay, so as far as lifting is concerned, are you lifting to just maintain where you're at, or are you trying to add more weight during the course of that, or what is kind of the purpose of when you are lifting during the course of the season?
Really just maintain. Unfortunately, we will lose a lot of weight, lose some muscle over the year, but really just maintain our strength from the off season and stay strong the whole year.
All right, so let's turn our attention to the Centennial Spartans. Again, you saw this option twice last year in the flex option as it is. And again, as we were talking with Coach Jones earlier, it's all about assignment football. who's got the quarterback, who's got the fullback dive, who's got the pitch, and it's really going to be about the linebackers and how they're going to be able to fill gaps on that. And so what's going to be the key for this linebacking group to make its case? I mean, you're not going to stop it all the time. They're going to hit you a couple times, but what's going to be the key so that you guys can limit their explosiveness, that sort of thing?
It'd be patience. We've got to be patient on the toss. You know, when they do that, it looks like, oh, I got a free shot on the guy, but you got to be patient. You got to sit. You got to hold on the line and just make sure the younger guys and the guys who haven't seen it as much are in the right spot.
Is there anything that you can share with the younger guys, like a Chase Wilburn? I know we've mentioned him a few times, but he didn't see this, and he's probably going to see this on Friday. But things that you share about keys, I mean, they've got a different quarterback, too, this year than last year. But just the principles of that, what do you share with younger players about how to get ready for something like this?
Patience, really, and McCone is always right. Listen to McCone.
Amen.
Okay, and then for you, Josh, again, they've talked about this defense that Centennial throws at you, similar to what Denton Geyer throws at you with the 3-3-5 look. They've got, and again, from a blocking assignment kind of perspective, what's going to be essential for this front?
Well, I mean, we're just going through it, 3-2, you know, that's what we call it up there. So make sure communication and get on your block and make sure you're not going to be inside. So that's mainly it.
You were in probably the game of the year. I did want to ask you guys about the game of the year, about Denton Geyer, as far as that was. And again, that was a long time ago. But to be a part of that game, what was that like? Just being, first of all, in it, and then being on the sidelines as it was going on.
It was awesome. It was something I've dreamed of for a long time, and it was awesome just to have that happen and to be there and be a part of it. It was amazing. 8
lead changes in that game, by the way. 8. Then for you, Josh.
Well, just being a part with my team, you know, my family, you know, every year for 4 years, you know, this is what I got. So blessed for them, and then going in and just hitting them and going at it until the very end. And then, of course, the kick, you know, so we win. So it was awesome.
I wanted to ask you too, Kai, because you guys are getting a little bit more healthy, and I'll get to you, Josh, and all the skill guys coming back. But obviously with Carson Dempsey coming back after his surgery from a few weeks ago, what does that mean for this defensive unit as a whole in terms of guys just playing where they need to be playing, and being set alignment, that sort of thing?
More sacks with Dempsey being back. More, you know, he knows the defense better than some, and it's good to have J-Mac out there, and he's learning too. So it's good to have someone who really, really knows it and he's seen this, you know, he saw the Centennial offense twice last year too, so it's good to have him back.
When he played as much as he did as a freshman, I'm talking about Carson Dempsey here, what surprised you or what impressed you, the fact that he could pick this up at such a young age?
I never knew someone that big could move that fast. He can move, and so it's always fun playing behind him. And he picked it up real quick, playing the Geyer game. I think he'd only played DN for a week, so you know, a couple of times McCone, maybe I yelled at him a couple of times. He picked it up real quick.
Yeah, and that's for those who don't know, that's the McCone reference. That's Aledo defensive coordinator Brad McCone. Okay, and then Josh. Obviously, all the big guys are coming back this week. Caden Finley's coming back. Hawk Daniels is coming back. Ray Guillory's coming back. And we already know this offense can score, and it's explosive just about on any potential play. What's it been like to be a part of that, to make sure that, you know, because it all starts with what you 5 do to give Haas protection, but what's it going to mean to have those guys back? Starting with, in this huge 2-game stretch, starting with Friday against Centennial, and then next Friday against Denton Ryan.
Means I got to run more, you know. So that's all I got to say, man. It gets tiring down there, and so once we start throwing the ball and running the ball, and you start running 60 yards, like, oh, man, here we go. But, man, it's so fun just scoring touchdowns and then being right back at it. So I feel like we're going to put up a lot of points. That's about it.
All right, and then as far as the season is concerned, obviously the goal is to first win the district championship. We already know that you all have clinched a playoff spot, and then everybody wants to try and get back to playing what would be the Friday before Christmas, because the state championship game in Division I would be on that Friday, not Saturday of the season. But for you guys to try, if you're fortunate enough to make that deep run, Kai, where do you think it's going to be important for this team this year to do that?
I think it will be important to just to stay strong, to not get lost in what we're doing, and just keep our eyes on the prize and just keep working towards what we've always wanted.
And then for you, Josh.
I mean, let's go for it all. Exactly. Just staying strong, positive, being there, working on ourselves every day. And then let's go win that gold.
All right, guys. To my immediate left is right tackle Josh McCarley. Way to my left is linebacker Kai Howington. Folks, let these young men know that you appreciate them being here tonight. Want to remind you that H5 Sports Barn and Eye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. Josh, thank you. Kai, thank you. Good luck to you guys this Friday against Centennial.
Thank you.
All right, don't forget the Bearcats will continue their season in District 3-5A play when they take on the Centennial Spartans. That'll be a 6:30 start on 92.1 Hank FM with the pregame show. The kickoff is at 7 o'clock. We hope that you'll join us, and we'll be back here next week with another edition of the Aledo Coaches Show podcast with other selected players. And then in the coming weeks, we'll have volleyball coaches and cross-country coaches joining us because the fact those seasons are winding down. They're getting into postseason. Volleyball, by the way, if you didn't know, all alone in first place in District 5-5A with huge wins last week against Justin Northwest and Granbury. We will talk to you all next week. And again, don't forget the Bearcats, 6:30 Friday night at Tim Buchanan Stadium. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Have a great rest of your week. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo, with Bearcats head coach Robby Jones and the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us in person every Monday night at 7 from the new Jake's Burgers, 601 FM 1187 in Aledo. And then listen to every Aledo Bearcats game, home and away, live on 92.1 Hank FM, on the free 92.1 Hank FM app, or online at 921hankfm.com. The Aledo Coaches Show podcast is a production of Real Country, Hank FM.